Welcome to the internet, my friend. How can I help you?
We're online.
All systems go.
And in your face. You are listening to the golden microphones of the IMC Radio. News, opinions, and your calls.
Yes, you are.
You gotta see that big picture.
Sometimes if you stop the machine, then you realize, whoa.
You know, you have to have some foresight and think about what kind of an effect is that going to have on air travel.
How important is aviation to you?
Well, how important is it?
To the place, come to the place, and we set the place high.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the post Sun and Fun IMC Club podcast. We're here on Plane Talk. I'm Howie Marlin, a.k.a. Max Gross, with you today. With a follow-up, this was supposed to be a live show, but because of technical difficulties, it wasn't. Yeah, I can make all sorts of excuses except to say what we're going to listen to for the next half hour or so is a lovely interview with Thomas Schrade from Cruiser Aircraft. Really interesting fella who flew who owned the Sikorsky. Remember the Sikorsky on the movie The Aviator, about Howard Hughes? Now it's down in, I believe it's the original is with Kermit Weeks. I may be wrong. I think so. Anyway, he flew that Sikorsky around Europe. Fascinating fella. Created this program with the Cruiser Aircraft Inc. and offers a really interesting program, Learn to Fly, a lease to buy. They're moving towards certification out of the light sport genre. So, considering the amount of time it took for me, in my experience, to get my ticket, to be able to buy into this airplane for reasonable money and get you through to your solo and then have access to aircraft, it's really a very interesting program. So I thought I would offer this to you folks. He's got a couple of friends with him who help in marketing and want to promote the aircraft, so they'll chime in as well. But without further ado, I'll get this party started. I'm here with Thomas Schrade, Lindsay Lips, and Aaron Porter. So we were talking about the light sport aviation in the Czech community. How did you get involved in this?
Okay, well, if I started out when I really got involved in 2011, 2012, I was flying an S-38 Sikorsky around Europe. I'd flown it from Minneapolis to Frankfurt and then started doing air shows for the next 3 summers.
Wow.
I ran into the board of directors up at Giżycko Beach, Poland. I exchanged rides, gave them a ride in my S-38 Sikorsky. They gave me a ride in the Sport Cruiser, and I really loved the airplane. Was invited to visit the factory, became friends, and we became really close friends. Later, when Czech Sport Aircraft decided that they'd like to have somebody here in the United States that was more familiar with the people in the Czech Republic and could communicate more directly with them, they decided that perhaps we should form a new company called Cruiser Aircraft Inc., along with one of my other partners from Slovakia, and be the primary importer for the Western Hemisphere for Czech Sport Aircraft. So we started our company in September. We signed a contract and became the primary importer, assembler for the Western Hemisphere. And we're here to support our existing dealer network and expand it to North and South America.
Wonderful. How many dealers do you have in the U.S.?
Right now there's about 14 dealers, so you have them scattered from New Jersey to Glendale, Arizona, and most places in between.
Okay, well, that's impressive. And speaking of impressive, the aircraft, I mean, it's gorgeous. And there's a lot of discussion over carbon fiber versus aluminum. Tell me, what is the frame made of?
Well, ours is an all-aluminum construction, and we think it's the best. I know that carbon fiber, some of the new materials are very high-tech. They're very sleek. They look very beautiful. But sometimes damage, you could have a ding and the damage could go deeper than it really appears. So we like aluminum. We know when there is an issue with aluminum, it's easy to spot, it's easy to repair, and it's proven up over the last almost 100 years is a great product for our
There
planes.
are known technologies, there's known systems. Obviously, no, there's a real asset to that. And then there's new technologies. One of the things that your sport cruiser has is the ballistic system, the ballistic parachute system. Would you explain that to me?
Yeah, well, we like a lot of other aircraft, have moved into having our planes equipped with the BRS parachute system. We think it's a great safety thing. I think on the website for BRS, they show that more than 370 people's lives have been saved by ballistic parachutes. I think it's particularly good. I'd like to fly over the water. A few weeks ago, I flew one from Marathon Key down to Cozumel, 412 nautical miles over the water. On a fixed-gear airplane, it's a little bit scary. If you lose an engine and you're in a high wing or a Cessna, something like that, you have to glide into the water. Chances are you're going to end up upside down in the water. With our plane, God forbid you have to deploy the parachute, but if it was over water, you have a much better chance of survival, at least in my estimation. You can pull the parachute, you're going to come down upright, you're going to be able to exit the airplane the way it's supposed to be instead of trying to get out underwater upside down.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting the gentleman that developed the BRS system about 10 years ago, and the interesting thing is I live on an island, and for me to go anywhere, I have to fly over water. So I'm basically out of luck. You know, I try to get to 4,000 feet mid-channel, but it's kind of stupid when it's a 20-minute flight. And but the bottom line is it's an incredible safety product. So it's great that it comes in the new aircraft this year.
Yeah, well, it's been a standard feature for a number of years now. I'm not sure exactly how many years, but it's been in the airplane, and we've utilized it for a number of years.
Well, that's wonderful. And what other aircraft do you represent?
Well, we only represent the Czech Sport aircraft line of planes. One of the other ones that we have got the flying prototype that's just getting certified now is a high wing side-by-side that we call the Sky Cruiser.
Oh, that's
and we'll be equipping that, and we'll hope to have it at Oshkosh with amphibious floats, one with Thunder tires and one with the tricycle geared configuration. So we're excited about it.
Well, I look forward to learning more about that. And with you, the company today is Lindsay Lips. Now, what are you doing with the company?
Tom is just he's become a really good friend. You know, aviation is it's a small pond. Everybody's fishing from the same one. And I met Tom out at the Living Legends of Aviation Awards, and instantly we know a lot of the same people. And he's actually kind of an expert as far as all of this goes.
Well, that's wonderful. Are you a pilot?
I have 56 hours on a helicopter.
56 hours in rotary. That's a pretty big deal. I have two, and one of them is in a gyrocopter, so we don't quite know where to put that, but that was awesome.
Wow.
And so that's wonderful. Now, of course, you've got how many hours in rotary?
Well, I have in rotary probably only about 30. I started my training, and then I figured out it was going to cost me as much to learn to fly a helicopter as a Learjet, so I chose the Learjet.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go. And with us on the other end, I'll just slide on over here. I have a Cherokee. What can I say? Erin Porter, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Delighted to be here.
And how are you associated with these kind folks?
I have been very lucky and had some very synchronicitous, I guess that's the
We'll make that word up.
word, events take place in my life around aviation. And
Such as? What brought you here?
Who brought me here was Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
But Tom and I met back in Reno when he was in a different capacity, and I knew him more as a hotelier.
When he was a wee lad.
But we enjoyed a lot of fun at the Reno Air Races, and he's a very gracious hotelier. But what I came to know is that he's also a very serious aviator. And I happened to be there when he launched from Minneapolis on his journey in Osa's Ark, which is an incredibly rare and beautiful airplane. And so we've stayed in touch, and he's been a dear friend. And recently I understood that he was getting involved with Czech Sport Aircraft and with a really interesting rally that's coming up.
What's that?
It's a VFR flight rally from Marathon to Cuba, and it's the first one in 60 years. So we're trying to get as many sport cruiser pilots to do this as possible. It's May 19th through the 22nd. And that was the kind of first thing I learned about.
It's April. It's coming up?
Yes. May 19th through 22nd. Be there or be square.
Yeah, well, that ain't going to happen this year for me. But that sounds exciting as all get out.
And anyway, in talking to Tom, I recently moved back to Florida. I went to the University of Florida, and I'm happy to be back in Florida. I love it here. I have great times here and good luck. And he mentioned all the things he was doing with Czech Sport Aircraft, and I've done media and PR for a long time, sometimes in aviation, sometimes not, but I always get drawn back in. I love it. It really is my passion.
Are you a pilot?
Well, I would like to be. I was seriously, I think, conceived in a Staggerwing Beach that belonged to my father.
Oh,
my mom.
Too much information.
No, my mom.
Either that or not enough. You got to go one of the two ways.
My mom found out.
Tell me about it. I want to know. Was the Staggerwing upside down? Were we inverted?
My mom found out she was pregnant with me when she was taking flying lessons from my dad. And she thought the stalls were making her sick, and it was me.
Ah, that's cute.
So anyway, but I would like to get my pilot's license. I really would.
Well, go ahead.
I want to.
Then
Tom,
just go right ahead.
Yeah.
Don't let me stop you.
Both these girls are going to learn how to fly sport cruisers.
Yes.
Lindsay's already got all the study materials and is working towards that. Erin's going to have it shortly, and it's kind of going to be a requisite for them to become sport cruiser pilots because we want them to help us showcase the airplanes across the United States.
That works, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Matter of fact, your experience in Rotary, your general aviation background will make things much easier. I mean, you're being familiar. Listen, the aviation navigation, charts, frequencies, chat, knowing how to talk on the radio, know how to handle yourself. It doesn't matter what you fly. You really gotta walk the walk. You have to know. I mean, the truth is, yes, a tri-pacer is a lot different than an Eclipse, but a pilot is a pilot. And the one thing that we all share is this basic love for aviation and the ability to be able to advance our education. By the way, you're sitting here with a representative from the EA's IMC Club. And the whole virtue of this organization, of course, is to keep people proficient. So as you go about your education, somebody is going to teach you. And one of the reasons why they want to teach is to stay sharp. There's no choice about it. The 80-20 rule applies to life. And as you go about your aviation career, you need to understand a lot more than the 20. And so you need to keep those numbers up. And you do it by teaching. You do it by sharing. The club, which gathers people together, and we all have different experiences, and we all fly different aircraft with different electronics in it. We get into the same type of situations where we're flying at 10,000 feet northwest with the wind at this direction, with the weather like this, and all of a sudden, pop, pop, fizz, fizz. What's that smell? What would you do? And then we turn the video off, and you guys talk to each other about, well, and, my did, well, when I did, oh, I'll never do that again. And then we advance the video. So this has happened, and now you're going here, and, what's that? And now you talk. So we advance it. We have this very strategic design to keep the conversation moving. So we've also moved it into the VMC, or Visual Flight Range, which is for you guys in the light sport, at least at this point, right?
Yeah, at this point. We really are working towards certification, so we'll be able to fly our sport cruiser in IMC. We're working with some of our certification people to accomplish that. We hope to have that done within the year. It's going to require an upgrade on some of the equipment. We're going to have a certified VOR navigator and a certified GPS. Heated pitot-static system, and then, of course, have the annual checks on the transponder and the pitot-static system. So we're moving towards that direction as rapidly as possible. We really feel that in order to break into the market completely the way we'd like to, we got to get into the flight schools, and that's priority number one right now.
Well, that's a really good topic. I mean, flight school product. You're nodding in agreement. You have some experience?
He has a plan here. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that, Tom, about the offer for a new pilot. Well,
this only goes out to about 20,000 people. So
I don't want to get it wrong. So could you just
okay?
Well, the price?
Well, right now we're working on a Learn to Fly program, and for $2,500 you learn to fly sport cruiser. Actually, if they were to sign up at the show, it'd be $1,900 to learn to fly. That would allow them to get pilot training to become their solo ticket in light sport.
Get to solo. that's interesting because one of the bigger challenges in aviation is the fact that everybody's different and that you get different situations, aircraft conditions, experience, coordination, and ability. And so it's kind of hard. But that's quite a commitment.
Right. Yeah. Well, we know it's a commitment,
That's
but
cheap.
yeah, it's absolutely
That's cheap.
What we really want to do is to be able to get people interested in it. As you know, there's a deficit in the pilot community of training and going forward right now. I was talking to Mark Baker, president of AOPA. AOPA is interested in trying to figure out how to get more young students excited about aviation, like they did at my age. The EAA is obviously moving aggressively to do it. They have a training program that takes it all the way through flight sport certification for, I think, $99,900. But we want to keep the price down. We want people to fly our airplanes, and we want them to get exposed to it.
Okay, I have goosebumps. You have touched on something which is seriously one of the biggest bones and contention that I have had in the industry, the hurdle to entry.
Exactly. We feel it's the same way. So what we're going to do is we're developing our light sport training program. We're going to try to get people in the door, get them soloed so they can start building hours on their own. We're working with a couple finance companies to have a sign and fly deal like some of the car rental companies or car leasing companies, where you'll be able to write a check and then have a monthly payment, take a 36-month lease. At the end of the lease, you could either buy it out or you could roll it over and get into a brand new airplane in 36 months. We take those airplanes, refurbish them, get them into the club, get them into flight schools,
Wait a minute.
etc.
So how much would it cost for me to get into this deal?
Well, what we're hoping to be able to do is to be able to get into the leasing program, and it'd probably take a $10,000 downstroke, and then probably about $1,000 a month for 36 months. Then you'd have complete ownership of the airplane during that time.
This is $100,000 aircraft?
It's about $179,000, $175,000 airplane.
So that's amazing. Speaking of amazing, man has just walked by. That's okay. I'm getting a little giddy because this is what's needed in this industry. You need easy access because most folks really aren't running around with an extra $100,000 to kick in. But if you're passionate about something like I was able to muster enough for a Cherokee and a hangar, right? But listening to you, realizing if this option had been presented, it may be something I would have taken advantage of. I mean, it gets you into the aircraft and gets your education. You see, that's we should talk more because that's really interesting.
Right. Well, that's our goal. You know, as I've looked at the light sport industry, you know, because people could fly a light sport without a medical, it seemed like the main focus was towards the retirees, the young retirees, some guys that were a little apprehensive about being able to continue to get a third-class medical certificate, and it seemed like that was the market. It was, and it really was only market because way most of the light sports were built. They had dealers. They'd take orders. If you placed an order, you'd put 25% down, and they'd start production on the airplane. You'd get halfway through, they'd put another 25% down, but it was totally unfinanceable. So the only people that could really buy a light sport were the guys that had the money in the bank and didn't have to go to get any financing. So our goal as Cruiser Aircraft Inc. is to maintain a complete inventory, possibly 10 to 15 airplanes on hand in an assortment of colors at our new facility in Sebastian where people can come and look at them and then get financing. We're also working with AOPA to do 85% financing and probably up to a 15 to 20-year amortization depending on the person's creditworthiness. So we think that'll be an interesting program. But we think the leasing program could be really exciting. And one other thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is we're trying to also, in this program, is to develop our cruiser club, which will allow people that get checked out in a sport cruiser to be able to go to various locations, North Perry Airport, and rent an airplane for a reasonable price. They could fly that airplane to the Bahamas if they wanted. They could pick one up and rent it in Sebastian. Or if they were going up to northern Wisconsin, they could go to our dealer up there. He'll have a club plane, and they'll be able to rent it and go up to the UP or Eagle River, Wisconsin.
Well, that is really very interesting. We know about open airplane. We know about the concept of the being able to be checked out in an aircraft and rent it. For you to offer that in light sport, it just brings it to another level. The fact that you're also, I mean, I would like to see that happen It would be phenomenal.
Right. Well, and it goes beyond that, too. We have a flight school at the factory in Kunovice, Czech Republic. We also have a flight school in Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia. And I don't know.
Do I have to go there to learn?
No, you don't have to go there to learn, but you may very well want to go there to fly. So our club members would be able to go to Slovakia, to Bratislava, rent an airplane, fly to Krakow, Poland, maybe then to Prague, then to Salzburg, maybe to Budapest or down to Croatia or Estonia, and tour all over Europe, because Europe is a lot smaller than the United States, and the range on a sport cruiser and the speed of it gets you around Europe very quickly. In order to do that, if you're a U.S. pilot and rent a plane in a foreign country that's UK or EU registered, you have to get checked out. So our goal will be to probably have quarterly seminars, and we'll bring over one of the flight instructors from Slovakia and brief the pilots and get them so that they have a sign-off and can get a permit to fly a rented airplane in Europe for 28 days.
This is a little freaky. Now, I'm sure people are sitting back going, whoa, hold on now. Navigation is navigation, and an airport is an airport. It doesn't matter to us where we are. We can go from point to point. And in flying in Europe, it's just the same thing. You're just going to a certain direction and communicating. How about any complications with languages? First thing off the top of my head.
But just the reason I'm so supportive of this,
yes.
in 2010, I flew a 1928 S-38 Sikorsky from Minneapolis to Frankfurt. I flew up to Frobisher, across to Greenland.
No. Which model is that?
S-38. It was built in 1928, Osa's Ark. I flew it in the movie The Aviator.
It's
a twin engine.
The seaplane.
The seaplane.
Oh,
God. It was the zebra striped seaplane.
That's your plane?
It was my plane. I flew it across the North Atlantic, and
Does Kermit own it now?
I sold it to Kermit when I was done with it in Europe.
Oh, show me some love. Oh, yes.
So let me elaborate on flying in Europe.
Forget all this stuff. Hey, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Awesome. No, you're telling me you're flying a Sikorsky. I'm going, hey, wait a minute. There's only a couple I know, and the one I know, that's sitting over in Kermit's place. Wow.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Kermit. Well, mine was
Kermit.
painted.
Howie says hi.
We built, my friend and I had it restored in 2002, 2003 area. Our goal was to paint it like one that was flown in Africa in 1934 and 35. So the one that was flown in Africa in 1934, 35 was zebra stripe like mine, identical to mine, and they called it Osa's Ark. So our goal was to take it to Cape Town, South Africa, and retrace the flights of Osa and Martin Johnson. In 2010, I had the opportunity with some of my friends from Europe. In fact, one of my co-pilots that was flying from Greenland to Scotland was Tom Enders, president of Airbus. So, and I had Ulf Mervold.
Small company, little startup.
Ulf Mervold, one of the few cosmonauts/astronauts in the world, flew with me. Every stop, he had to sign autographs. But we had a great flight.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so I got the airplane to Europe in 2010 and flew it around. The intent was to fly it to Cape Town, leave Europe in February 2011, fly it to Cape Town, but the Arab Spring started. So then I got a list of air shows in Europe and wrote an email to them all, told them I'd be happy to take it to their event if they'd like me to. 11 air shows invited me to. So it was really fun. I got to fly all over Europe. I flew from England to Poland to Czech Republic. I covered all of Central Europe and Western Europe.
That's fantastic. That really is. This is a topic for a whole nother subject. And a part of me really does want to keep going, so we probably will. But let's do us all a favor with the Sport Cruiser. You have a couple examples here at Sun and Fun over at Paradise City.
No, we don't have it in Paradise City. Our booth is a large booth located by the East Gate going into the Warbirds.
You're here in main campus.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good. Well, like I said, this is going to be heard throughout the year, and it's available, downloaded all the time, and we republish it. So we'll be hearing about this a lot of times.
So let me just clarify. I went through the whole spiel about what I'd flying in Europe, not to talk so much about that, but I wanted to talk about the ease of it. You asked me, was there a communication problem? The answer is no, there isn't. English is the language of all the towers. It was a great experience for me flying a unique airplane. In fact, when I flew,
I'll bet.
I flew from Salzburg to Duxford one time, and I was going over Munich airspace, so I requested transition. The guy in the tower says, "How'd you like to do a low approach on 8 right?" I said, "I'd love it." Well, I got lined up to do a low approach on 8 right. He says, "Darn, you're too slow and the guy behind you is way too fast. How'd you like to do a 360 around the tower?" So I flew around the tower between runway left and 8 right at about 300 feet and waved to the guys in the tower.
Oh my God!
So I mean, it's actually easier to fly in Europe. And for just to tell you how we would do it, if you flew in our club, went to Slovakia, our instructors would help you work with your itinerary. They'd show you the frequencies, help you pre-plan your flight plan, help you teach you. You would have already known how to fill out an international flight plan over there.
Sure.
We'd know who you were going to talk to. The controllers would know that the airplane that you flew is one of our club airplanes. They'd know that you're probably first time flying in Europe, so they would be made aware of you. Would have a guy at Krakow, Poland, if that's where you're going, to meet you at the field, help you get to a rental car, or help you get Uber.
And Lindsay, guys, chime in whenever you want.
Where do they get a hold of you? Where can they learn more?
Well, the easy part about that is our company's called Cruiser Aircraft Inc., and so our website is cruiseraircraft.com, and there'll be a complete link to everything, including the club as it comes into fruition, and there'll be a lot of information, and so it's really a work in progress. We started building it only about 3 weeks ago, so it's up and running, but it'll be continually added to.
Are you on the Facebook?
We're not on Facebook yet, but we expect to, and we hope to be Twitter and.
By the end of today, you get them on
I'll
Facebook.
have them on Facebook.
We also have a snazzy toll-free number. It's 888-8-FLY-CRUISE, C-R-U-Z.
888-8-FLY-CRUISE. Okay, well, that's awesome. You have something to say?
A question.
You need a mic. You need a microphone.
Yeah,
you need a
gonna
microphone.
Lean on in here. I have a question.
Robin, announce yourself. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Robin Lamar, radio personality at Sun and Fun, retired United aircraft mechanic, and world traveler. And I travel Europe, and I've always heard how difficult and expensive the landing fees are for GA in Europe.
Well, it is expensive if you go to the bigger airports. If you land at say, Salzburg, you end up with fairly expensive landing fees. If you land at Munich, or if you land at Frankfurt, or you land at some of the larger towered airports. However, there's a lot of other places. So our goal will be to be able to point out the airports that don't have the expensive landing fees and where the gas might be more cost effective.
To make it GA friendly and actually more interesting, because anybody who can find a freeway can find Frankfurt. So you're going to take us to the more colorful, small communities which have a little more of the real European flavor.
Exactly. And we think that's what's more fun, to be able to get around to the smaller airports and then have somebody be able to meet and greet you and be able to make sure that you know how to get to your hotel.
Now, I've been to the Aero Expo, which partners with the EAA in Feldenkrais, in Germany, and it makes us know that we are actually in the dark ages as far as what we're doing in light sport and other types of aircraft, that we got kind of stuck. And so I absolutely respect choosing a check-made product and bringing it over here to enlighten the American population about how flying really can be. Are you thinking, or I'm going to wonder, because I can imagine how great it would be to make that expo one of the things that your club does, where 6 of us from the United States fly into the expo in Germany, because it also is a fly-in. And maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, I would like to talk about it. Actually, along those lines, though, on July 15th, we'll be in Salzburg at Hangar 7 and Hangar 8 with Red Bull, and Raymond Reedman is going to...
unknown company.
Raymond Reedman, the chief pilot for the Flying Bulls, is going to fly the sport cruiser. There's a wonderful event that happens annually at Scaleria, which is a resort on Wolfgang Sea, where they film The Sound of Music. They've been doing it about 14 years. This year, we're going to be there with a delegation from the Living Legends of Aviation U.S., with the concept of having that be an expansion and a division of the Living Legends of the United States to expand to Living Legends of Europe. So Lindsay could elaborate a little bit more. Well, okay, well, let me just continue on. So on July 15th...
She's starstruck.
So we're going to go over there and...
oh, girl, you got to learn to chime in.
Too funny. Too funny. All right. Wait,
Do it.
you had a question. I don't
do
really
it.
have anything else, but you've got friends, and I can't make any announcements or anything. I'm not officially representing Kitty Hawk, but so I'm not gonna say that.
All right.
But I will say that
We knew you'd find something to say.
right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'll fill in some of the spots. What we're going to do is, I think people would find it interesting. They could go on YouTube and Google Scaleria Air Challenge. They could Google Scaleria Air, just Google Scaleria Air Challenge and see some of the exciting things. If they look at the videos that were taken in 2012, they'll see my S-38 Sikorsky taking off and landing on the lake. I was there, spent a lot of time with the owners, became very good friends, and they put on a fabulous air show. So it's really interesting. We hope to be able to fly. We'll have two of our sport cruisers there, and they'll be doing some flybys at Scaleria.
I think that's a fabulous idea. And the date for that again is?
It's July 15th.
Delightful, my birthday. You might just see me there.
Oh.
So one of the proposals, and I didn't get to listen to the whole thing, is the way Europeans come over and use Sun and Fun as the beginning of their flying adventure in America. You propose your club to be the beginning of Americans' flying adventures in Europe.
Well, that's correct. Let me, along that line too, we're working with Air Rally, which is a Canadian company that does escorted tours to the Caribbean and to Latin America. In fact, I flew recently in April with them from Fort Lauderdale all the way down to Martinique in a sport cruiser. A couple months ago, I flew with them to from the Keys down to Cozumel and into Mexico and down to Guatemala. So it was a real interesting trip. Sebastian, our home in Sebastian, will also be their Floridian home, and it'll be the gathering point for their pilots. They have a lot of European pilots that like to come over, and we're also going to work with them to get them quickly signed up so they can come and rent our planes and use them to fly to the Bahamas, the Caribbean, or rest of the things like that. So our club members will be in the United States, going to Europe. We'll have our European sport cruiser owners, PS-28 cruiser owners, coming to the United States to fly with us here.
Well,
Brilliant.
I really appreciate that, and I want to say I need to wrap up. We're coming to the end of our allotted time, and I want to thank Tom Schrade. Schrade. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You are a fascinating individual. I mean, I really look forward to getting to know you better over the years, and hopefully you can come back and give us an update and see how things progress from here. In the meantime, on behalf of the IMC Club and the EAA and everybody else who's involved in Sun and Fun, from Sun and Fun 2017, this is Max Gross, a.k.a. Howie Marlin, wishing you sun in your face and the wind to your back. All right, Howie out.